Wow, we have so much to discuss tonight. How's it going, everybody? Thank you all so much for chiming in for the latest post-game show here on WardyNYM, as we'll be breaking down and reacting live in real time to the latest Mets victory, the latest Mets series victory, and there are so many positives and negatives to take away from tonight's game, including some injury updates, along with the fact that the Mets secured the W in the end, winning 5-4 in their series finale. The rubber match here against the Milwaukee Brewers. How's it going, guys? Thank you all so much for chiming in again. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Help us get to 100 likes for the first short-term goal. Help us get a 16K subs for the next short-term goal here on the channel. Like I said, so much to deep dive. My notes in front of me are going to take me a while because, like I said, lots of highs, lots of lows. But thankfully, even with the Mets off to an early deficit, came back, rallied, and got a clutch run there in the bottom of the eighth, and got a beautiful comeback throw there to get Renfroe out at the plate. What great base running by the Brewers. Was somehow even worse than the Mets this series, and that's saying a lot because the Mets had their struggles against Renfroe, no less, because they decided to run on him multiple times from right field there, and lo and behold, it was kind of the reverse roles is how this game ended in the Mets fashion. Edwin Diaz gets a save, continues to be the best reliever, the most dominant and closer in baseball. We didn't even see Hader in this series, so that's definitely positive. And after that clunker of a loss yesterday, where basically everything imaginable went wrong, some poor managing by Buck Showalter, in my opinion. Did not like what I saw from the Mets in Game 2 yesterday. No less with Tyler Megill on the bump up until his injury. He was thriving, and now the Mets again secure another victory, another series victory. So I want to see W's in the chat right now, folks. Everyone in the live show, thank you again so much for being in here. I'm going to be deep diving everything that you guys need to know about this game, my initial reactions, of course, and then from there, I'll start to answer all your comments, questions, and concerns here in the live show. And we may just, in fact, take some callers tonight, too, if we do things a little bit extended. But that'll, of course, be cut off for people on replay. So if you want to see the full version, just make sure you subscribe, have the notification bell on, especially, so that way you don't miss out on post-game shows like this every single night here on the channel. But yeah, a lot of deep dive. Appreciate everyone chiming in. My apologies once more if my Wi-Fi connection is a little on and off. I've been trying to toy with some troubleshooting. If you guys don't know, my connection hasn't been great as of late. I've been switching up browsers. This browser seems like it's working a little bit nicer. I'm not sure, but again, we'll see. All I know is that we got a lot of deep dive from this big Mets victory. Very pumped up. So happy that they're back in the win column again. Another day, another series victory. But like I said before, and I'll say it again, there is a lot that needs to be broken down from this game. So I figured, guys, let's just start from the top. What an awesome way it was for the Mets to win tonight. And a dramatic fashion there in the bottom of the ninth. Edwin Diaz gets a save again. But let's backtrack just for a minute. I think it's important that we talk about what has happened with the Mets and the health statuses of a lot of their players, because there's still question marks to this point. And there's a possibility that we may not even know answers to some of these guys until after we're here live in the show, in which I'll update you guys the best I can in tomorrow's series preview show prior to the Marlins matchup. That again begins tomorrow night around 7:10 p.m. Eastern time. But start things off, folks. Let's talk about all the health updates for the Mets. Now, entering tonight's game, we saw James McCann had his first rehab game there with the Double-A Mets, that being in the Bennington Rumble Ponies. He got the start of the catching position, while Mets' top catching prospect in Francisco Alvarez got the start at DH. McCann did not have a first first day at the plate. Not that it meant much. He went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, but again, it's his first time swinging the bat and actually being in the game and quite a bit, so I'm not going to hold it against him. All I know is that it's great to see McCann on the rehab, and hopefully he will be back with the Mets soon. Max Scherzer pitched a perfectly fine, right around, I believe, between 30 and 50 pitches, 3-inning sim game today against live batters, and now Scherzer is set to have his first rehab start as soon as this Tuesday. So everything is going according to plan as long as there's no setbacks. Max Scherzer may very well be back in this Mets rotation before the end of June, which is phenomenal. That means he's at minimum 2.5 or so weeks ahead of the original 2-month schedule of him since his injury. Now it looks like that he will in fact return hopefully in a 6-week span, totaling since he was first put on the IL a couple weeks ago. Now let's get into, again, the reason why Max Scherzer coming back is so crucial, because there may just be a possibility that the Mets will be without their young stud and Tyler Megill once again, because Megill, of course, started tonight's game on 3.1 innings, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, even though I don't blame those earned runs on him. Really was the same scenario a couple starts ago prior to his IL stint, where it wasn't the Nationals a start to before that, where he was cruising through the first 4 or 5 innings, and that bases loaded jam. They brought on Ottavino, and Ottavino couldn't get one out for him, and he was charged with all those runs. That's what sucks, again, about having a reliever come in when you have bases loaded, when in reality, maybe that starter was able to get out of the jam better than the reliever, and that held true again today from the Mets, because Megill exited today's game in the 4th inning with an apparent injury, did not look comfortable right away, which was so heartbreaking because Megill started off today's game going, again, 3 innings, including 6 strikeouts, was just looking unhittable for the most part. Got work quite a bit there in that 4th inning. Again, bases loaded. He left the game with injury and is now looks like it's going to be some type of right shoulder tightness, something along those lines. So fingers crossed, we're going to be praying for Tyler Megill. That's nothing too serious with his injury, but of course that is not encouraging to see. You can tell right away as soon as he made that pitch there in the 4th inning, he wasn't comfortable. Asked for the trainer to come out right away, and just like that, he was out of the game. Just his second start back since his original injury. That again was his bicep tendonitis, so this is separate, but knowing it's throwing shoulder, that's never a good sign. So again, praying to the baseball gods, even though that I know more often than not they're not in the Mets' favor, that Tyler Megill in general will be okay and that he will not be out too long term. We will have further updates because he'll get further imaging MRI tomorrow at some point, I would assume earlier in the day, and then we will get the results. And once that happens, we'll break it down here on the channel whenever that may be. So again, let's all pray tonight, regardless of what you're into, anything like that, that Tyler Megill will be fine. Because again, he was cruising, got beat up a little bit there in the 4th, and then exited. And again, he gave up those 4 earned because Chasen Shreve comes in. And what does Chasen Shreve do? He's not able to get out of the inning without surrendering all the runs that were on base. Those 3 runners all score. He's in charge with 1 run today. Shreve, the inning after, looked solid, had a 1-2-3 inning, so that wasn't bad. But prior to that, Shreve just did not know how to handle that situation. I know he was ramped up quickly to get him in for the game, but it was still frustrating. And Tyler Megill, again, just worst luck ever, not getting bailed out here by his reliever in Shreve. And again, who knows what the status of his health is. But not even just Tyler Megill, folks. Again, continue to smash that like and subscribe on just chiming in, folks, as we're breaking down the latest Mets victory, 5-4 over the Milwaukee Brewers, their latest series dub. But again, there are both positives and negatives that come from tonight's game. That is what we're deep diving here. But not just the likes of what we saw with Megill, but Eduardo Escobar, folks. If you find out by time we're still live here in the show, please let me know in the comments, because there was a lot of rumblings going on with Eduardo Escobar prior to tonight's game. He did not get the start, nor was he even available off the bench. It didn't even look like that he was with the Mets. He didn't even look like he was in the stadium. So I don't know what the status of Eduardo Escobar is. No one does at this point. Everyone, Gary, Keith, and Ron, no one had an answer as to why he was not with the Mets today. So I'm praying for his sake, too, that this is an injury base, that everything's okay, and that if it's something family-related, that everything's okay, too. I don't know if he acted on an emergency for something. I genuinely have no clue what is the status of Eduardo Escobar, and it's so bizarre to see something like this, where even, again, GKR, no beat reporters at this point have been able to provide any further information besides the fact that, yeah, Escobar, 1, didn't get the start tonight, and 2, wasn't even available. So still wait and see. Actually, we just found out. There we go. Breaking news, guys. I guess we'll find out tomorrow if there's more context or not. But Eduardo Escobar, according to Buck Showalter, was not available tonight due to a non-workplace event, according to Mets manager Buck Showalter. I have no clue what that means. That's as broad as humanly possible. But again, that is now the update on Eduardo Escobar. So I'm glad that we started talking about it now, and it led into this tweet here from Anthony DiComo as they're asking Bucks all these questions in the post-game presser. So again, for people in the back, just chiming in, or in case you didn't hear me, Eduardo Escobar was not available for the Mets tonight because of quote-unquote non-workplace event. That is so broad. I still have no clue what that means. And I have no clue if we're even going to get further context on this. All he knows is I pray for Eddie's sake that everything was okay on his front. I hope that nothing terrible happened or anything along those lines, and that he will be with back with the Mets as soon as humanly possible. But again, thinking about him, so bizarre. Again, when you're given that broad of a comment, all I can do is assume, and I don't want to assume the worst. I'm going to just pray for the best for his sake. And then again, if we provide further context, we will discuss that further on the channel whenever we discuss things next here in WardyNYM. So Eduardo Escobar, hopefully it's nothing terrible with him. Big thing, though, not just him, but Tyler Megill, again, exiting today's game. But let's get into breaking down this game now, folks. We went over all the health updates. Now let's talk about why this Mets win was so massive, especially with them being off to an early deficit. However, they did get off to an early lead that we saw, and that started there in the first inning that the Mets have done so well. I'd imagine that the Mets are not just either the best or definitely one of the best teams of baseball in scoring within the first 2 innings of a game, because they did exactly that tonight. Mark Canha gets himself a walk in the leadoff spot for the Mets. And going through the lineup quickly, guys, just in case you don't know, Mark Canha was in the leadoff in left field. Then you have WardyNYM, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, J.D. Davis, Luis Guillorme, Tomas Nido, and Nick Plummer was in there and right for Starling Marte, who then, of course, Marte came in later in the game and ended up getting the game-winning run scored for the Mets, and he came in there for that being in J.D. Davis in the bottom of the 8th. But now getting back to the first, folks, Mark Canha with a walk. Brandon Nimmo with a hit by pitch right on his elbow, which is that's so frustrating. The Mets were hit every game this series. Granted, they hit the Brewers 3 times last night, so I'm not going to say that this is completely one side. It's not. But the Mets, again, multiple times. Marte, of course, got hurt yesterday that we didn't even discuss because we didn't do a post-game show. Marte got hit in the wrist / forearm area day-to-day, but he should be back in the lineup tomorrow against the Marlins, his former team from last season. And then you saw today as well, Brandon Nimmo got a hit by pitch right on the elbow, and then Mark Canha later in the game got a hit by pitch right on the thumb. Thankfully stayed in the game and even stole a bag that we'll get into shortly. No less, a couple guys on there with no outs, or at least one out there to start things off in the first. And then Jeff McNeil does what he does best, and he is McHits, baby. Gets himself an RBI single. And that now this season, guys, Jeff McNeil, who has 32 RBIs on the year, 14 of those RBIs have come in an 0-2 count, where the count started off 0-2. Talk about impressive. Jeff McNeil's on an all-star caliber level, not just with elite defense, a great play at second base, but elite defense in either left or right field. This man has simply been Superman in so many ways for the Mets this season, and I'm loving every second of it, as I'm sure you guys are too. No less, we fast forward things again to the fourth. Christian Yelich hits a solo bomb off of Tyler Megill there, and that hopefully would have been the only run that Megill surrendered. But again, a couple guys get on after that, and Chasen Shreve just couldn't get the outs when he came in relief for Megill with his injury they exited with. And then just like that, it's a 4-1 ball game in the Brewers' favor as we then enter the bottom of the fourth. And from there, the Mets get a walk from Jeff McNeil. Luis Guillorme gets a base knock, and it hits Lorenzo Cain right in the gonads. So talk about Lorenzo Cain. Lil Cain getting hit with a low blow. That was kind of comical at the time. I know that we all saw that. He ended up being okay. I'm glad for his sake, but we all know that feeling for us men out there, especially if you guys are watching the show. Not a fun feeling, especially by baseball that's happened to me. Yeah, don't like that one bit. No less, he stayed in the game. And then what happens? Tomas Nido has continued to clutch up for the Mets with some great opposite field hitting. Gets himself an Oppo RBI single. But the Mets, you would think, still have something going there. But Luis Guillorme being silly on the base pass, again, something that the Mets weren't good at for the entirety of the series. Again, folks, my apologies if my Wi-Fi connection drops a little bit. Just give it a second. It'll pick back up. I thought that changing a browser would help me today because I usually use Google Chrome. Now I want to today I just switched to Firefox, and it was working better early, and now it's just up and down with the visuals. So my apologies if it doesn't look good for a second or two. Should pick back up right here, though. But then you see right after that, Luis Guillorme tries to leg out second to that third on Hunter Renfroe, is one of the better arms in all the NL in right field, and he drills him out and gets him out on the replay there, and that ends the inning there in the fourth one. The Mets could have at least tacked on potentially another more run because they've done so well with 2-out hitting. No less, that ends it there in the bottom of the fourth, only down by 2 runs, 4-2 at that point. Then we get to the fifth inning, and we see Nick Plummer, who did not have a great day at the plate, but did come up clutch for the Mets when needed in different ways. He gets a walk to start things off there in the fifth. Then Mark Canha gets himself a 2-run dead center bomb. Canha in the leadoff spot was absolutely phenomenal for the Amazins tonight. Great hit by him there. And that was Canha's, I believe, third or fourth home run this year. He doesn't have many home runs. He's so analytical with his approach too, but Canha, there's a reason why he's now batting .295 and a just under 800 OPS on the year. Mark Canha, who was a low average hitter the past couple of years, has now been utilized perfectly by Buck Showalter and has thrived in most, if not every situation given to him, and even had some pop in that bat against the southpaw and that he saw. But then after that home run, that would be the last that you would see from Ashby, that being the left-handed starting pitcher for the Brewers tonight. He, like Tyler Megill, exited with injury. I hope for his sake that he will be okay. But I do know that it was some type of tightness or inflammation with his right arm. I don't know exactly what exactly the ailment was, because I honestly forgot. But no less, if you guys want to let me know in the chat, that's perfectly fine. And as we go forward, the Mets at that point tied the ball game 4-4, originally down by 3 runs. And that was massive for the Mets. And I had a feeling that they would bounce back after an early deficit, because one thing that we've noticed here in June is that the Mets, when they get blown out, they really have looked lifeless. But this wasn't a game where they were getting blown out. They were down by 3 runs, which told me, okay, the Mets can really jump back within the next inning. And so I like their chances of still legging out a potential win, even with everything, all things considered, with the uncertainty on Eduardo Escobar entering tonight's game. And of course, the uncertainty with Tyler Megill exiting the game early due to injury. But then as we get to the 6th and 7th inning, folks, the Mets don't do anything there. But who steps up and why he's in my Wardy's top 5? You got to give it to Seth Lugo. I would say this was easily one of the best performances Seth Lugo has had the entirety of this season. The Mets needed an innings eater, and Lugo became Lugo once again. Beautiful with the fastball, the curveball mix. Got himself 4 strikeouts in 2 innings, only surrendering one hit, 0 earned runs during that span. And love that for Lugo. Dominant 6th and 7th to keep the Mets in this one. And then the 7th inning, Arcana gets a hit by pitch, and then he steals second base, which was great. Pete Alonso walks, and Jeff McNeil grounds out. So unfortunately, the Mets were not able to do anything in the 7th, but they were starting to attack on guys. The Mets got a lot of guys on base. The Brewers walked the Mets a boatload, and the Mets got a decent amount of hits. Nothing crazy. They got 7 total on the night, but they did have a boatload of walks, as a matter of fact. Actually, let's tally them up. They had 1, 2, 3, 4. So the Mets had 4 walks, and they could have had at least a little bit more offense than what they provide. No less, they still legged out the win in the end. Because as we get to the inning, folks, that's where the Mets rallied, as they've done so well. Tied ball game at that point. It is 4-4 apiece. And then you have J.D. Davis with his first base knock finally of the night. It felt long overdue. This lefty-righty matchup, you think that J.D. would have thrived better against, say, the likes of Ashby and other relievers. He didn't, but in the 8th, he gets himself a nice base knock right down the middle, avoiding the shift. And then Gourmet reaches on a throwing error that easily should have been a play that should have been taken. No, you see, he was thrown there into shallow left/center field, and J.D. gets in the way. He's in the way of the infielder for the Brewers between 2nd and 3rd. So he automatically gets a 3rd. Runners on the corners, no outs for the Mets there. And they were able to get that clutch run in thanks to Nick Plummer. Puts the ball in play to the right side. It's an RBI ground out. And Tellez originally was looking at Marte, that came in as the pinch runner there that we saw for J.D. Davis at 3rd base. But he thinks that Marte isn't running because he didn't tag up and start to sprint. So he throws to second, and they were trying to double up, do a double play. They couldn't do that, and Marte then comes in to score because he's so fast. No less, it was kind of silly, the alignment that the Brewers had. There were some questionable moves tonight made by their manager, and that ended up faltering for the Brewers tonight, as the Mets would bring in Edwin Diaz that we saw in the bottom of the 9th. And then, of course, you saw a base knock from Hunter Renfroe to start things off in the bottom of the 9th. Then another guy gets on for them, and then Renfroe tries to leg things out. So silly. Literally trying to go the lengths of second all the way home on something that should not have been the case. And then a beautiful throw there by the New York Mets, and the relay there from Plummer to Alonso to Nito to get the tag on Renfroe, and that would be the 2nd out. They reviewed it. Brewers tried to challenge it. Didn't matter. Mets end up getting the out, and then Diaz strikes out the final batter, I believe in Yelich, that he saw. And that does it, folks. What a massive victory for the Mets. Again, not the prettiest victory by a stretch, and it definitely wasn't as positive as what it could have been with all the injuries that the Mets endured and really have been enduring. With Megill, again, we'll see how long he's on the shelf for, if at all. Same thing with Eduardo Escobar. He's not hurt, but again, it's a non-type work issue, so fingers crossed that's nothing serious on his end. All I know is that the Mets still secured a massive victory tonight, winning 5-4 and securing another series victory for the Mets. So a game that looked this close, if the Mets would lose a half game to the Braves to be not just 4 games ahead of them, but it would only be 3.5 because the Braves thankfully didn't play tonight. And then they start their series tomorrow against the Cubs, who of course have lost 9 straight and have given 10 straight, and have given up 90 runs during that span. Because why? Baseball, right? No less, the Mets secure the victory and keep themselves afloat 4 games above on the Braves still here in the division. Mets, I believe, are now 1 or 2 wins away. I think 1 now from 20 wins above 500 on the season. They're getting awfully close, so hopefully they can get that number 20 tomorrow night in their series starting against the Miami Marlins, folks. But again, that's really all you need to know about the game, in my personal opinion. I'll definitely check right now. You guys are saying check for Martino updates. Pardon me, not Martino, Anthony DeComo. I'll do that. But guys, if you're just chiming in the live show, we're breaking down everything that you guys need to know about this massive 5-4 victory for the Mets. We broke down the injuries. We broke down all the health statuses for guys. Thank goodness that, yes, Mad Max Scherzer looks like he will return this rotation within the next couple of weeks. really, I would say I don't think it's going to drag on. At latest, I think he'll be back in the first week of July. Right now, there's a solid chance he'll be back before the end of June even wraps up. But I'm going to check right now with Jacomo, guys. If you're enjoying the show, please don't hesitate from smashing that like and subscribe on. Help us get a 200 plus likes by the end of the live show, and help us get a 16K subs for the next short-term goal here on the channel. And thank you all so much in advance. I'm going to just double check here with the updates, guys. Make sure I'm not missing anything. And okay, let's see. Okay, so here we go. For Eduardo Escobar, it does appear to be a medical issue that's affecting Eduardo Escobar. As Showalter cited, HIPAA laws explain why he could not reveal more. Showalter checked with trainers several times during tonight's game regarding Eduardo's status. We'll know more tomorrow. Oh my goodness. So this scares me, guys. Okay, I'm going to say this now because it doesn't look like he was bluffing. Darren Meenan for the 7-line, or just the 7-line account in general, but I'm assuming that Darren is the guy that hosts it, tweeted out prior to today's game that he got a text that Eduardo Escobar was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance leaving Citi Field, and he was hoping that was just a cruel, joke that was thrown at him. He deleted that tweet soon after, and then a little bit later he said, thankfully, it looks like that was just a cruel joke. Nothing to worry about here. But clearly, no one truly knew the context. He just tweeted that early because he was hoping that I could get clarity from beat writer. Granted, it wasn't the smartest move of him to tweet then, but looking back, it doesn't look like that Darren, or just in general, the 7-line account was far off because of the fact that, if it's a medical issue, put 2 and 2 together. I don't know why someone would even text him to begin with and say it was a cruel joke that happened. So, damn, that's actually terrible to hear, guys. I'm hoping that for most people that are watching and replay that you got to this point, that you found out the true update here on Eduardo Escobar, further details in case you say cut things off and didn't see the full thing. But yeah, Eduardo, thoughts and prayers with him. That's terrible to hear. I'm seriously unbelievably concerned for him now, and I pray that we have a positive update on him tomorrow. That just came out of nowhere, folks. Man, oh man, I hate the fact of knowing that it's a health issue with him, that because of HIPAA, obviously, that you can't emphasize anymore, but we'll have an update tomorrow. I mean, it's hard. It's genuinely hard for me to go to bed at night when we hear stuff like that. It really is. So again, my thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. That's nothing serious. Really do hope that he is going to be okay and is okay with whatever transpired earlier today. I would assume is what led him to, of course, having some type of health issue, ailment going on there. Same thing with Tyler Megill and his shoulder. I'm assuming these are separate degrees, right? But regardless, same thing with Megill, praying that the imaging that comes back tomorrow on his right shoulder is nothing too serious, and that at worst, he's just on, say, the 15-day IL, 10-day IL, whatever it may be. So, yeah, like I said, positives and negatives for the Mets tonight. That is for certain. Man, oh man, I'm beyond feeling terrible. I really do. Okay, guys. So while we don't know for certain what the reason is for Escobar, we'll find out tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be anything that is drastic, hopefully. I am curious what it was. Again, if it was it something sudden that happened? Was it something where, this was a buildup? Like, again, I honestly don't know. I just feeling for Eduardo, praying that everything's going to be okay for him. And this will be interesting for the Mets tomorrow as well, because as things stand right now, without Escobar, they do have a short bench. I'm curious if this is going to warrant them to have to possibly make a move. I know that we've talked about Mark Vientos quite a bit. I've been planning to make a Mark Vientos video over the next couple of days. So assuming that Vientos is not called up tomorrow, you can expect a video over the next couple of days here on the channel regarding him, because I do want to have that discussion because he's been killing it in AAA for the Mets. But yeah, I feel gut-wrenching stuff regarding not just Escobar, but Megill. But folks, I think that's all that needs to be said regarding the likes of this game, the health statuses. So for now, I'm going to get all your comments, questions, and concerns. I'm going to start to answer your donations if we have any of them in the chat. And then, guys, we'll get on to taking some post-game callers for a little bit here in the show. You know the drill. After any significant Mets victory, I love to take on callers. So that's exactly what we're going to do tonight. So stay tuned for that. And once more, if you're wondering, how do you call in? How do you do those things? Again, all you have to make sure is that you're subscribed and have those notifications on so you are in here in the live streams, so that way you don't miss out. But again, guys, for people in the live show, let's start to answer all your comments, questions, and concerns. Mets win 5-4 tonight. Impressive fashion. Wasn't the prettiest, but got the job done. And they look for another series victory, hopefully starting tomorrow in Game 1 against Marlins. But for people on replay, let me know your thoughts down below. How do you feel after this strong 5-4 victory, series victory now over the Brewers. How do you feel about the statuses of Tyler Megill, Eduardo Escobar? And for you, who was your biggest standout in tonight's victory? Please make sure to let me know. And again, folks, live chat, let's get to those comments. And for people on replay, this is where I'll be cutting things off.